Good afternoon. Dapat pala ako ang sermonet. Kasi yung ending ko is where Winston begins. Today we continue with the study on the various parables. And we will revisit the parable that is about the wedding invitation. Let us go to Matthew 22. Matthew 22, beginning in verse 1. Most of you would be very familiar with this parable, but I hope that this afternoon I would be able to share with you some insights which you may not have considered before. Basahin muna natin siya. Matthew 22, beginning in verse 1. The parable of the wedding feast. Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parables and said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son and sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. Again, he sent out other servants, saying, 'Tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and fatted cattle are killed, and all things are ready. Come to the wedding.' But they made light of it and went their ways, one to his own farm, another to his business, and the rest seized his servants, treated them spitefully, and killed them. But when the king heard about it, he was furious. And he sent out his armies, destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The wedding is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore, go into the highways, and as many as you find, invite to the wedding.' So those servants went out into the highways and gathered all whom they found, both bad and good. The wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he saw a man there who did not have on a wedding garment, and he was speechless. Then the king said so he said to him, 'Friend, how did you come in here without a wedding garment?' So he said to him, and he was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, 'Bind him hand and foot, take him away, cast him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.'" Whenever we read the many different parables of the Lord, we will notice meron siyang tinatawag na timeline, and the timelines are not the same. One of the obvious things we would notice is that they have different timelines. One parable would, for example, would present the coming of the Lord as far off. Another parable would present it as by midnight. A parable can be set as a period of time leading towards or happening towards the end, or happening after the return of the Lord, or sometimes happening just immediately before the end. Or it can happen, but the end is not yet. That's how it goes. Understanding these different time settings or timelines is important for us to have a better perspective of the parables. The parable can have a setting of what seems to be the time of the end, but actually runs a considerable period of time before the end. So let's quickly review. In the parable of the hidden treasure and the parable of the pearl of great price, we are presented with scenarios where the kingdom of heaven is presented as an item of extremely high value, and one that is worth exchanging everything we now have and everything else we can acquire later one that is worth leaving everything and everyone behind if we have to, or called upon to, or when given a choice which to pursue. In the parable naman of the sower, Jesus presents us with several scenarios where those who heard the word actually held on and pursued what they have received, but only for a short while. Once trials and difficulties came in, or the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches, or the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart, in the end, we are presented with only a fourth of them remaining and becoming fruitful. In this wedding parable, Jesus presents us with an additional scenario where He gave us not only how some of us react to the calling, but also gives us how His Father feels and responds to those who are called. Yung mga parables na napag-aralin natin so far is almost all about us. But this particular parable gives us an additional scene, an additional player on the scene. The player happens to be the king. At siya yung primary in this particular parable. So let's take a closer look at this parable. We are told it was the king who arranged a marriage for his son. We know, of course, who is this king. We know that this is the father of the Lord. In this particular case, we are being told by the Lord that this wedding scenario is his father's idea. The building of a family is his father's idea. Our calling and salvation, how it shall be, when it will be, is planned by the Father. He decides when the wedding is going to be. He decides when to start calling the people who will participate in the wedding. It is not Jesus' call. It is His Father's call. Siya, nandyan lang siya sa sideline. Hinihintay niya lang yung kanyang misis. But it was the Father who makes all the preparations. He decides whom to call, whom to be the guests at the wedding. In this wedding, even though it appears to be at the end, the parable itself runs a period of time before the time of the end. And we are told that there will be those who will take light of this invitation. They are being invited, but they will take light of it, or calling. And the Father, we are presented, is not happy with their response. In fact, the word that Jesus used is furious. There's a difference between angry and there is a difference kapag sinabi mong furious, yung galit na talaga. And those who made light of the invitation, the response of God is, hindi lamang siya galit. He was furious. This is no ordinary invitation. This is no ordinary king. Kasi in a normal invitation, you actually have the right to refuse. You can tell the person, ay, hindi pa ako pwede. Kumuha ka na lang ng iba. But this one is different. Jesus presented His Father as one who will not allow rejection of the invitation. If you are invited, you have to be there. Otherwise, there are serious consequences. It's almost like yung ini-invite ay walang freedom to choose. And that is how Jesus presented the parable. We are clearly told that there is a serious consequence for those who had decided not to come. So obviously, this is no ordinary wedding invitation. In this particular parable, we are also presented where God has two kinds of servants who do His bidding. Those that you can hurt, and those that can hurt you. They are called servants and armies. Unfortunately, I am of the group that you can hurt, whose heart you can break, who has a falling tooth, hindi pala falling, nawala na, who has a falling hair. I am of that particular group. And you are not even doing me harm yet. Wala na akong ngipin, wala na akong buhok, pero hindi niyo pa ako sinasaktan. Yan. You can treat me unfairly. But I'm trying to tell you this because God also happens to have servants where if you hurt the servants, the other servants will hurt you. That is where you have to be careful. Huwag ninyo akong sasaktan. Huwag niyong sasaktan yung puso ko, damdamin ko, atay at balon-balunan. I'm saying this because in this parable, Jesus presents his Father as one who will not allow those who harm his servants to go unpunished. I'm saying this because we are not truly the masters of our faith here. God is. In this particular parable. It is different from the song na naririnig ninyo palagi sa Beauty and the Beast. I am the one who had it all. I am the master of my faith. This one is different. God is the one who has it all, and God is the master of our faith. Even those who are simply invited to the wedding. God will not stand by when he sees his servants being treated unfairly. Of course, in other scriptures, we are also told that God does treat well those who are kind to his servants. If you give them food to eat, God will give you more food. To give them more food to eat. If you give them water to drink, God will also give you more water to drink. In other words, God will repay you more than the kindness that you have extended to his servants or those who do his bidding. The second thing that I would like to highlight for you is that in this parable, God decides when to call those who were invited. There is a certain degree of strangeness to the way this parable is presented. Asking those who were invited to the wedding to come to the wedding does not seem to represent yet the final return of the Lord. As it appears, those who refuse to come, meron pang certain amount of time where they can be replaced. And we know how that works. It's not as easy as simply replacing the people that will go to the wedding. Because there has to be a certain timeline, which we will see in a little while. This is different from the parables of the talent and the pound and the narrative of the thief in the night, where the return of the Lord marked immediately the end. Pagdating niya, tapos na. This is a scenario where people are judged for not coming, yet they were still replaced. Unlike in the parable of the talent, pagdating niya, tapos na. You are either thrown out or you are either given positions of authority. Wala nang scenario of replacement. And we are also told that those who were originally invited to the wedding, they suffered severe consequences as a result of not appearing before the wedding of the king's son. The parable is also telling us that the father seems to have a list of all those that he wanted to be a part of the wedding. Their names are on the guest list. Tawagin nyo na. Ito yung listahan. Puntahan nyo na sila. Yet, even though they have priority, and their names are on the invitation cards, they refused. But refusal came with consequences, as I mentioned. Jesus is clearly dropping us a hint that we should not refuse the invitation to the wedding. If you are invited today, do not refuse. You may think that you have the option to refuse, but the parable tells us, no, you can't refuse. Your only choice is to accept. Because the other choice, hindi maganda ang consequence. Of course, it is highly likely that this parable was originally meant for the people of Israel. Sila yung primarily invited to the wedding. Ang problema is, we are told that they were not worthy. When the invitation was sent out, they have made themselves unworthy of the invitation. Still, it can easily apply to us and of any generation by way of the calling of the parents. Yun yung diniscuss natin last time. Train a child in the way that he should go, so that when he is old, the proverb says, they will not depart from it. In other words, God expected the parents to make sure that every child will learn God's ways, and even when they have gotten old, they will continue in the ways of their parents. And that is what happened to Israel. God expected that of them. And God expects the same of us. God expects the children to continue in the ways of their parents. And God expected the parents to instruct the children to continue in that way. Many of us have been privileged to be born under the guidance of the church. Privileged to have been born, taught, and lived by the truth. But that makes you also a guest to the wedding. And when God makes the call, He wants you to come. The other point is that when God makes the selection, they are described as both bad and good. The instruction makes no distinction between bad and good. And it does not mean that the previously invited were all good. Kasi some of them were described as having seized the servants, treated them spitefully, and killed them. So, hindi naman sila lahat good. They have the tendency to do harm. When God invited them to the wedding, ito ang response nila eh. They seized the servants, they spite them, they killed them. So they are not all good. But still, they were invited to the wedding. God asked them to come. The previously invited weren't any better, of course, than the ones who are being invited as their replacement. Ganon din ang condition. Yung ipapalit. Tawagin nyo lahat, kahit sino na sakali, good and bad. But here's the catch. There's one thing in this story that has always fascinated me. It is implied, but not explicit. God, or Jesus, could have presented God as one who would have chosen to go with what is left. Yun bang, Kung ikaw yung nagpahanda ng wedding, ito na yung araw, tinawag mo na yung magkakasal, at tinawag mo na yung imbitado sa kasal, at hindi sila pumunta, then you could have just decided, okay, merong empty seat, so what? Kung sino lang ang nandyan, di sila na lang. God could have done that. But in this parable, Jesus was presenting God as one who has a specific number of people to fill. Para bang meron siyang number of seats. Ayaw niya na walang nakaupo. Pag yung inibita niya originally ay wala doon, kumuha ka na lang kahit sino dyan, tawagin mo. Kailangan makumpleto. Yan ba, it's almost like Jesus is presenting a situation where there is a specific number of people and God does not care kung wala siya palitan. But what God cares about is there has to be no empty seats. Kailangan mapalitan. Which is why the parable tells us it's almost like it's far yet from the end. Kasi meron ka pang time para palitan. Hindi pa siya eksaktong ceremony. There are good people and there are bad people. Jesus presented in the parable, meron talaga siyang tinatawag na good at meron talaga siyang tinatawag na bad. Hindi lahat mabubuting tao, hindi rin naman lahat masasamang tao. Halo siya. It's a mixed group of people. But Jesus actually had in mind yung tinatawag niyang good. Kasi sabi niya good eh. Merong good. At meron din naman talagang masasama. Yeah. So Jesus was making a clear distinction. But He is also making us know that in this particular group that are invited to the wedding, ay meron mabuti dyan, meron masama. Pero okay lang, pagsama-samahan mo sila lahat. Most of us is likely going to fall into the bad category. Kasi sabi ni Paul, all of us have sinned. At least once we have sinned. Or some of us, we have sins that we keep repeating by instinct, by second nature. Hindi mo na pinag-iisipan din. Basta ginagawa mo na lang. Mali. Bakit? Kasi naging second nature mo na siya. But we will find in a little while, you are not supposed to continue in that second nature of yours. You are supposed to replace, change. Jesus presented His Father as one who does not go with what is left, but is one who does not want to see empty seats at the wedding, and is quite willing to have guests who are not part of His original list. So meron siyang listahan na nauna. Pero kung yung nandun sa listahan na yun was deemed unworthy, God said, okay, tanggalin pero palitan. And that is where most of us would come in. Paul would actually talk of that as branches who were taken off, and then there are branches who were grafted in. It would also appear that God has a specific number to fill, and those who are a no-show to the wedding will be replaced. They lost their place on the wedding. But that is not all. They all lost even their future place in any wedding. Bakit? Kasi ang sabi doon sa servants or sa armies, throw them into the fire. And the statement, throw them into the fire, tells us, God does not want to see us ever again. That is why we have to be very, very wary that when God calls us into this particular invitation, we have to make sure that we come. And all of you are invited into this wedding. You have to come. Now, the fourth item is that there is this guy that was invited. But when God was making his rounds, when the king was making his rounds, there is this guy that does not have a wedding garment. And this is one of the most obvious sin in this encounter. In fact, ito yung palaging tinututukan ng maraming discussions. In this encounter, this guy going to a wedding without a proper dress, the king said that is not acceptable. Ano sabi sa kanya? Why are you here without a wedding garment? Let's go back again to that particular conversation. When the king came in to see the guest, he saw a man who did not have on a wedding garment. So he said to him, friend, this is a king. Nilapitan, courteous pa. Sabi niya, kaibigan, how did you come in here without a wedding garment? He was invited. He came, but he came as is. And he was speechless. And look what happened to him. The king said to the servants, bind him, hand and foot, take him away. Cast him into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. As a statement that you will find very often in the statements of Jesus Christ that has to do with burning. So this guy, according to Jesus, is that we can't go without a proper dress in the presence of this king when we are invited to the wedding. In other words, what you are when you are invited, the king expects is not the same person you are when you come to the wedding. Kung ano yung suot mo na damit nang ikaw ay nasa kalye, dapat iba na pagdating mo doon. Dapat nag-ayos ka man lang, nagbihis ka. Because we are presented with a king who does not simply sit on a throne. We are presented with a king who walks around, checks up on the guest. He makes sure that everyone in this wedding is properly dressed. You can come to a wedding I prepared and you are not dressed properly. Sabi niya, even though the father has considered calling anyone that can be found on the street, good or bad. Did you notice the description, ha? Sabi niya, sige, tawagin nyo. Mabuti, masama, tawagin nyo. But still, there is an expectation from the king that because you are coming to a wedding, magdamit ka naman ng maayos. Sabi niya. Of course, we understand that this is more spiritual than physical. But Jesus used the illustration of the physical to represent the spiritual. In this particular case, we understand that clothing represents righteousness. A bad clothing represents an unrighteousness, and a proper clothing represents righteousness. But we are also being told in here that a person has to exert at least some effort in acquiring a proper wedding clothes. Yun bang kapag ikaw ay tinawag sa kalye, ayusin mo muna yung sarili mo kasi pupunta ka sa kasal. And that, being a representation of righteousness, clearly tells us effort must be exerted. A person has to make some effort, to make some changes. That the person he is on the street, the king expects he is not the same person that appears on the wedding. Inayos na niya yung kanyang sarili. We understand this because the development of a godly character tells us it takes a period of time. As I've always told you, godly character cannot be developed overnight. Proficiency or skill cannot be developed overnight. It takes practice. It takes experience. It takes training until it becomes second nature to you. When you are invited to the wedding, you have to be properly dressed. You have to have a type of dress that is acceptable to the king. Well enough as a dress suited for the wedding, which means we can simply appear before God the way that we are now. Let us go to Revelation 19. Revelation 19 and in verse 7. Revelation 19 and in verse 7 also talks of a wedding, but gives us hints. Let us rejoice and be glad and give him glory, for the wedding of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. Fine linen, bright and clean, sabi niya, was given her to wear. In other words, kung ikaw ay nasa kali, ang dumi-dumi ng damit mo, you don't just barge into the wedding, na ang dumi-dumi pa rin ng damit mo. Magpalit ka ng damit. Which tells us that in the parable, because it is a physical representation, kung yung pagkatao mo ay madumi, you cannot go into a wedding na ang pagkatao mo ay madumi. You have to make some changes. Or in the description of John, it has to be a clothing that is bright and clean. Kung madumi ka doon sa kalye, dapat pagpasok mo sa wedding, malinis-linis na ang suot mo damit. We know that it is all about character. If you have a bad character, because you happen to be of the bad, kasi good at saka bad. If you happen to be of the bad, you should not appear still as bad in this wedding. Because Jesus eventually warns in his last statement, sabi niya, for many are called. The good, the bad, but a few are chosen. Even if you are already in the wedding hall, you can still be thrown out if you are not properly dressed. Because God will not just accept you in there being bad or not properly dressed. As the Lord has clearly presented to us in various parables, there is obviously a series of actions that we must do as part of our calling and covenant. Hindi iyan yung katulad nung naririnig natin, as I have mentioned to you many times in the past, na just because God has given you the Holy Spirit, guaranteed na ang iyong salvation. Hindi. The Holy Spirit is a guide, a help, so that you can do or perform what God expects of you at the end. Katulong mo siya, kasama mo siya. It becomes a part of you. But it becomes a part of you that will help you and guide you to become a different person from the one that you were before. Yes, it is a guarantee. It is a seal. But, kapag nandoon ka na sa wedding, and you are found to be improperly dressed, you can still get yourself thrown out. So hindi ito once saved or once you have been given a promise that the promise is guaranteed to be kept. Hindi, you have certain things that you need to perform, to act, to build, to develop. And I'm going to give you 5, but I'm not going to explain them. I'm just going to give you 5 items that you need to focus on. Maybe at another time, we can deal with them one by one. Ito yung listing ng 5 na iyan. Once you are called and you entered into a covenant, these are 5 things that you need to do. First is you learn what is expected of you. Second is you follow what you have learned. The third, build an acceptable character. Not just any character of your choosing, but build an acceptable character. The one that God will accept when you are in front of Him. Fourth, endure. Endure. And fifth, be faithful unto the end. Do not just endure for a time, but be faithful unto the end. From Adam until now, many have been called. Many will still be called. And there are those who have already secured their seats at the wedding. Sigurado na sila. Yung upuan nila, naka-reserve na talaga. Yung pangalan nila, nandoon na. Hindi na iyan mapapalitan. Abel, Noah, Daniel, Job, Enoch. Those reserved names, nandoon na yan. Your names could be in one of those tables. But your names may not be secure. And the thing that you can do to secure that your name is in there is by following these 5 points that I brought out to you. Follow these steps. Learn to God's instructions. Follow those instructions carefully. Build a righteous character that is acceptable to God. Endure the tests and be faithful unto the end. See? Don't just go to the wedding. Dress up for the wedding. We have been invited to this wedding. We must go and dress ourselves properly. I hope that I will see you all at this wedding in the future. Not my wedding, but I also hope to see you there. But this is a different wedding. This is the most important wedding that you can go to. And you are given time to prepare for it. Today you have been invited, and in the future there will be a call to come to that wedding. I hope that you will dress yourselves up and dress yourselves properly. When the king comes, he will not throw you out.